Somewhere inside you, there's a fire. There's always been a fire. Since before you could name it, before you understood what it was or what it wanted, it was already burning. Some days you feel it clearly, in the way you move through a room, in the decisions you make before you have time to second-guess them, in the moments when you are so completely yourself that it almost startles you. And other days it feels like it has gone quiet, like something that used to burn openly has pulled inward, or dimmed, or changed shape into something you don't quite recognize anymore. The fire doesn't lie. That is the thing about it. You can perform a version of yourself for years, steady when you're actually raging, small when you're actually enormous, bright when you're actually almost out, but the fire underneath all that performance knows the truth. It always has. And most of us have learned, very early, to manage the fire rather than understand it, to keep it at a size that doesn't make other people uncomfortable, to apologize for it when it gets too hot, to pretend it isn't there when the room seems to require that of us. But the fire is not interested in those negotiations. It is only interested in the truth of what it actually is right now, in this exact moment. And tonight, one of these fire flames is going to show it to you. Not the fire you want to be. Not the fire you were a year ago. Not the fire other people see when they look at you. The one you actually are right now, in this exact season of your life, in this particular chapter that no one else has a complete view of. The one that is burning whether you acknowledge it or not. In front of you are firefires. A wildfire. A candle. A bonfire. Embers. A fireplace. 5 completely different ways that fire moves through the world. 5 completely different kinds of heat. 5 completely different relationships between flame and purpose. According to Carl Jung's understanding of the self, we are not drawn to symbols randomly. The image that pulls at us is the one that mirrors something we already know about ourselves, something the conscious mind has not yet found words for. Jung believed that who we are is not one fixed thing but a living, shifting energy, and that the symbols we are instinctively drawn to are the unconscious mind's way of telling us what the energy is doing right now, beneath the surface of all our explaining and managing and performing. The fire you choose is a fire you carry. So don't look for the one that sounds the most impressive, or the most poetic, or the most like who you think you should be. Look at all 5. Let your eyes move across them slowly, and notice which one your gaze keeps coming back to, which one feels, without explanation, like yours. Choose that one, because that is the one with something to tell you. Take a breath, lock in your number, and before we go any further, drop it in the comments right now, before you hear what it means. The fire you choose before you understand it is the honest one. The one you choose after is just the one your ego preferred. So go ahead, 1 through 5. Choose your fire. Let's begin. If your eyes found the first fire, the wildfire, spreading across the hills, consuming everything in its path, moving faster than anyone planned or anyone asked, then the fire you carry right now is one of enormous, uncontained energy. And before anything else, I want you to understand that this is not a warning. The wildfire is not a problem to be solved. It is a force, and you are one too. There is something inside you right now that is moving, that is expanding, that has outgrown the container it used to fit in. And whether that excites you or frightens you, whether you are running with it or trying to manage it from a safe distance, it is real, and it is yours. People who carry the wildfire energy do not do things halfway. You feel things at full volume. When you love something, you love it completely. When you believe in something, you go all the way in. When you decide to move, everything around you tends to move with you, whether it was ready to or not. There is a magnetism to this kind of energy that other people feel before they understand it, a sense that something significant is happening wherever you are, that the temperature in the room has shifted. That is not an accident. That is you. But here's what the wildfire needs to sit with. Because it is so powerful, because it moves so fast and burns so completely, the line between passion and destruction can become blurred. The same energy that clears the ground and makes way for extraordinary new growth is also the energy that scorches things that were not yet ready to go. Relationships that needed more time. Projects that needed more patience. Parts of yourself that needed gentleness instead of heat. You may have a pattern of burning through things, phases, places, people, versions of yourself, so quickly that you are always moving but sometimes never quite arriving. The question the wildfire asks, and it is the most important question you will sit with, is not whether the fire is real. It is. The question is what it is burning toward. Because a wildfire without direction is not freedom. It is just loss. But a wildfire that knows where it is going, that understands the land it is burning through, that trusts the growth waiting on the other side of the clearing, that is one of the most transformative forces in the natural world. And in a human being, it is one of the rarest. You are not too much. You have never been too much. You just need a direction worthy of the fire. And notice how this plays out in your life right now. In your relationships, the wildfire can be magnetic and overwhelming in equal measure. People are drawn to your intensity, to the feeling that something is always happening around you, that life is more heat when you are in it. But they can also feel singed when they did not expect to be, when your energy moves faster than they were ready for, when the fire changes course and they were not warned. Learning to give the people you love some warning. Not to contain the fire, but to say, here's where I am headed. Here's what is burning in me right now. Are you with me? Is one of the most important things a wildfire person can practice. Because the people who are meant to be in your life will run toward the fire, not away from it. But they need to know it is yours, not just something happening to them. If your eyes settled on the second fire, the candle, small and steady, burning quietly in its corner, making the space around it warmer without making a sound about it, then the fire you carry right now is a kind that most people underestimate, and that you yourself may have underestimated too. The candle does not compete. That is perhaps the most important thing about it, and the most important thing about you right now. In a world that rewards loudness, that confuses size with significance and noise with power, you have found a different way. You don't take up much space, and you don't need to. You stay lit, quietly, consistently, without performing your light for an audience, without requiring anyone to acknowledge it. And yet, and this is the part that always surprises people, you are the one everyone gravitates toward without quite knowing why. They come to you when things are hard. They look for you when the room feels too crowded. They find themselves telling you things they haven't told anyone else, because something in your stillness makes honesty feel safe. That is not a small thing. That is one of the most profound forms of power there is, and it lives in you so naturally that you may not even see it. But the candle has a shadow, and it is a quiet one, because you are so steady, because you ask for so little, because you make your presence available to others without demanding reciprocity. The people around you can slowly begin to take your light for granted. They may not notice when you are flickering. They may not think to ask whether you are okay, because you are always the one who makes things okay for everyone else. And you, because you are not the kind of person who makes demands or draws attention to your own needs, may let this continue far longer than is good for you. You may let yourself burn lower and lower, still giving warmth, still showing up, until one day you realize you are nearly out. The lesson of the candle is not to burn brighter or take up more space. It is to know when to protect the flame. To understand that a candle that burns from both ends so everyone else eventually cannot light the way for itself. You are allowed to say this is using too much of me. You are allowed to step back into the quiet and let yourself recover. The candle's light is precious precisely because it is not endless. Honor that. And notice this pattern, because the candle people often miss it. The way you have trained the people around you, without meaning to expect your light without ever asking how you are keeping it burning. You give so consistently, you are so reliably warm, that your presence has become assumed rather than cherished. The lesson is not to stop giving. It is to let yourself be seen as something that can also run low. To let someone notice a flicker before you have to ask them to. The people who are worthy of your light will want to protect it. Give them the chance. If your eyes were drawn to the third fire, the bonfire, open and generous, burning in the dark on the beach or in the field, built for gathering, then the fire you carry right now is relational, communal, and at its best when it is shared. This is a fire that other people feel the warmth of before they even reach it. There is something about you right now that is oriented outward, toward others, toward connection, toward a particular kind of aliveness that only exists when people come together around something warm and real. You are, at your core in this season, someone who burns a community, who finds meaning not in solitude but in the shared flame, in the conversation that goes on too long because no one wants it to end, in the way a group of people can become something more than the sum of their parts when the right kind of warmth holds them together. And you are often the warmth, the one who thought to build the fire, the one who made sure there was room for everyone, the one who kept it going when the others started to drift. There is a generosity in this kind of energy that is real and sustainable. Not the exhausting generosity of someone who gives from fear, but the natural generosity of someone who genuinely believes that warmth multiplies when it is shared. But the bonfire's shadow is worth looking at honestly, because you are so oriented toward others, because your energy lights up most fully in the context of connection. You may find it genuinely difficult to be alone. Not impossible, but uncomfortable in a way that feels like something is missing. And that discomfort can sometimes lead you to keep the fire burning for groups or people or relationships that are no longer actually feeding you, because the alternative is a quiet you haven't learned to sit with yet. The bonfire that tries to burn indefinitely without you would eventually just exhaust itself. In your relationships, this may look like giving more than you receive for longer than you should, staying in dynamics where the warmth only flows one way because at least it is still burning. The lesson of the bonfire is to understand that the best gatherings also have an end. That rest is not the absence of fire. It is the gathering of wood for the next one. And that you, the person who makes everyone else warm, also deserve to be somewhere that warms you back. Ask yourself honestly, in the gatherings you build and maintain, in the relationships where you are the center of warmth, who is adding wood? Who shows up not to be warmed, but to help you keep burning? If you cannot name them quickly, that is information. It does not mean you stop being the bonfire. It means you become more intentional about who gets to stand close to it, and who has been standing close without ever once thinking to bring kindling. Take a breath. If you have not yet typed your number in the comments, do it now, because what comes next hits differently, and I want to know which fire found you before you hear what it carries. If your eyes move to the fourth fire, the embers, low and quiet, no longer blazing, the big fire already passed, but still glowing deep red beneath the surface, still radiating more heat in the flame that was visible above them, then the fire you carry right now is one that has been through something. Something enormous. Something that, from the outside, may have looked like the fire going out. But here is what the people watching from outside do not understand about embers, and what they may not understand about you. Embers hold more heat than the flame. The performance is over. The visible intensity, the part other people could see and point to and say, yes, there it is, that part has quieted. But what remains is not absence. It is concentration. It is depth. It is the kind of warmth that does not need to announce itself. You may be in a period right now where the people around you have stopped expecting very much from you, because you no longer burn the way you once did, because the brightness that used to be obvious has gone inward, because you are quieter now, more still, more careful with where you spend your heat. And they may have read that as diminishment. They were wrong. The intensity hasn't gone anywhere. It has simply moved from the surface to the center, from the visible to the essential, and what is left is a truest version of what was always burning. But the shadow of the embers is this. Because the fire has gone inward, because you have become so private with your heat, it is possible to become too self-contained, to stop sharing the warmth at all. People underestimate you, and instead of correcting the assumption, you let it stand, because being underestimated has its own strange protection. If no one expects the fire, no one is watching for it, and you can be exactly as you are without performance, without judgment, without the pressure to maintain a brightness you no longer have the energy for. But isolation is not peace, and embers that never find you would eventually do go out. The lesson of the embers is to let one or two people close enough to feel the real heat, not to perform the old fire, not to go back to what you were before the big thing happened, but to trust that what remains after the burning is the most valuable part, and that there are people who prefer the quiet, steady, deep warmth of embers to any amount of visible flame. They are looking for you. Let them find you. And understand this too, the season of embers is not a lesser season. It is often the most important one, because the wildfire is dramatic and visible, and the world makes room for it easily. But the embers, the quiet, deep burning after the great fire has passed, that is where the real transformation happens. That is where the new thing is being decided. What gets rebuilt? What gets left as ash? What was always the truest part of the fire, and what was only the performance of it? You are in that deciding place right now. And the choices you make in this quiet, unhurried, deeply honest season will determine the shape of the next fire entirely. And if your eyes found the fifth fire, the fireplace, contained within its walls, steady, reliable, warm, that when you need it, burning exactly as much as it should and not a single degree more, then the fire you carry right now is one of the most underrated and quietly powerful of all. The fireplace knows its edges. This is not a small thing. In a world full of fires that don't know where they end, that spill into spaces they weren't invited, that consume more than they were given permission to consume, the fireplace has done something genuinely difficult. It has found its form. It knows what it is for. It does not dream of being a wildfire, not because it lacks the heat, but because it understands that there is a different kind of excellence in doing one thing completely, in being the warm center of a specific life rather than a consuming force across many. People with fireplace energy right now are often in a season of deep intentionality. You have learned, perhaps through trial and error, perhaps through watching what happens when fire has no container, that the most meaningful warmth is directed warmth. That showing up fully for the specific people, the specific work, the specific life that is yours, is not a smaller ambition than burning everywhere. It is a more honest one. There is a consistency to you that other people find profoundly stabilizing. You are there when needed, not in a performing, proving way. Just genuinely there, reliable, warm, oriented toward what matters. But the fireplace is a shadow too, and it lives in the very thing that makes it beautiful. Because you know your edges so well, because you're so contained and so consistent, there can be a rigidity that creeps in without you noticing. The fireplace that never takes a risk, never burns in a new direction, never allows for a log that is a little too big or a flame that rises a little higher than expected, can slowly become just a habit. Warmth by routine rather than warmth by choice. And the people who live with it can stop feeling it, not because it has gone cold, but because it has become the background, something counted on rather than cherished. The lesson of the fireplace is not to lose your edges, which are genuinely valuable and hard-won. It is to bring consciousness to the warmth you offer, to choose it on purpose, again and again, rather than simply maintaining it. A fireplace that is tended with intention is one of the most beautiful things in the world. You have the capacity to be exactly that. And here is what I want you to carry from this reading. The fireplace does not need to burn bigger. It needs to burn on purpose, with full awareness of the warmth it is choosing to give and the warmth it is choosing to keep for itself, with the understanding that containment is not limitation, it is mastery. The most consistent, most reliable, most genuinely warm fire is always the one that knows exactly where it lives. Now, whichever fire chose you tonight, here's what I want you to notice. As you listened to your reading, something happened inside you. Either you felt the particular relief of being seen accurately, of hearing your own truth spoken back to you in words you hadn't found yet. Or you felt a resistance, an impulse to say that is not quite right, that does not fully fit. And both of those responses are important. The parts that landed easily are the parts of yourself you have already made peace with. But the part that made you uncomfortable, the shadow you wanted to step around, the line that felt too honest to sit with comfortably, that is not where I was wrong. That is exactly where I was right. The things that make us flinch are almost always the things that most need to be seen. And the fact that you felt the flinch, that you notice it, that you are still here reading rather than scrolling away from it, means something. It means you are more ready than you think. Because this was never about 5 pictures of fire. The images don't know anything about you. But you brought something to them, your exact season, your precise state, the version of yourself that exists right now in this particular chapter, and you poured it into one of them without meaning to. That is what instinct does. That is what Jung was trying to tell us. The symbol is just a mirror. What you see in it is already yours. And here is what mirrors do that photographs cannot. A photograph shows you what you look like. A mirror shows you what you look like right now, in this light, at this moment. The fire you chose tonight is not who you have always been. It is not who you will always be. It is who you are in this chapter, and that is valuable information, because most people are so busy managing performance of themselves that they never stop to ask what is actually burning underneath it. And here is the question worth sitting with, the one worth carrying into the rest of your day. Your fire right now, the wildfire or the candle, the bonfire or the embers, the fireplace, is it burning the way you want it to? Is it going where you mean for it to go? Because fires can be tended. They can be redirected. They can be fed with new wood or allowed to find their true shape. You are not locked into the fire you are right now, but you cannot change it until you are honest about what it is. So tell me in the comments, which fire are you right now? And was it the fire you expected, or did the choice surprise you? Which part of the reading stayed with you after the words stopped? The strength or the shadow? I read every single one. And if something in this felt like it saw you more clearly than you expected, subscribe, stay close, turn on notifications, because the next test goes one layer deeper. And something tells me you are exactly the kind of person who does not stop at the surface. There's a fire inside you. There's always been a fire. The question is never whether it is burning. The question is whether you are willing to look at it honestly, and then, with everything you now know, decide what you want to light. What is worth burning for? What has already burned long enough? And what, maybe for the first time, you are ready to let catch. Because a fire that knows itself is not a dangerous thing. It is a powerful one, and the world needs more of those. I will see you in the next one.